Petraeus misfires on Koran burning. Mobs murder more than 20 innocents in the name of God, and the commander of Afghan forces rebukes a publicity-hungry pastor in Florida. It must have come as a disappointment to the mullahs of Mazar Sharif, who sent the faithful out on Friday with instructions to avenge the recent insult to the Quran, and to the mobs who consequently went forth to slaughter 12 people at the UN headquarters, 9 more in Kandahar the next day, and 2 more the next, that their bloody enterprise had counted for so little in the eyes of Western military leaders. So it would appear, at least from the response by General David Petraeus, who delivered an impassioned rebuke of publicity-hungry Florida pastor who had presided over the mock trial and burning of a Quran on March 20th. This act was, the general declared in a video statement over the weekend, hateful, extremely disrespectful, and enormously intolerant. It had endangered American troops. He wanted, he announced, to condemn it in the strongest possible terms. No one listening could doubt it. The general would go on to say more, but nowhere in any of that condemnation was it possible to find a mention of the merciless savagery that had taken place in the name of devotion to God and to the Quran. Mark Sedwell, the NATO senior civilian representative who joined General Petraeus in the statement, did manage to find a moment to murmur in passing that, of course, condolences were due to everyone who has been hurt in the demonstrations. It's hard to conceive of a pronouncement richer in invasions of brutal reality than this one, with its references to people hurt in demonstrations. The participants in these demonstrations, a nice touch that suggestive of marches, perhaps carrying placards, had in fact hunted down and killed by shooting, stabbing, and beating to death a total of 22 people by the end of the third day's expression of religious devotion. In an interview Sunday in this newspaper, General Petraeus reflected further on the problems caused by burning the Quran and how mobs could be influenced by those who might have an interest in hijacking passions, in this case perhaps understandable passions. To this, the only sane response is no. They are not understandable. These passions that so invariably finds voice in mass murder, the butchery of imagined enemies like the people hunted down in the UN office Friday, and of everyone else the mobs encountered who might fit the bill. We will not prevail over terrorism and the related bloodlust of the fundamentalist fanaticism as long as our leading representatives, the military included, are inclined to pronounce its motivations as understandable. It should be said that President Obama, to his credit, went on to declare after the denouncing of the Quran burning that to kill innocent people in response is outrageous and offense to human decency and dignity. It should be said, too, that its bleak commentary on the prevailing political atmosphere, that the President's public recognition of the horrors committed by those rampaging soldiers of Islam should seem noteworthy. Still it was, and it came as a relief after so much hand-wringing, all of it focused on the Florida pastor and the likelihood that he may have endangered American troops. The same was said about the danger of American troops when Newsweek published a false report in 2005 that American interrogators had flushed a Quran down the toilet, an event which set off days of rioting and bloodshed in Afghanistan and elsewhere. By making no mention of the perpetrators of the current massacres, while managing to suggest they were understandably driven to their action, General Petraeus doubtless believes he's taking the appropriate political path. It's a path that's unquestionably familiar, called appeasement, and one whose usual outcome is also familiar. Displays of cringing deference to the forces loosed on the streets of Afghanistan over the weekend will not strengthen the American mission. They will stiffen the spines of the jihadists. Such displays count as victories, reassuring indicators that the threat of terrorism, mob terrorism in this case, continues to work its wonders as a weapon of war. The sort that could send the commanding general of U.S. forces in Afghanistan and a NATO official into swoons of apology while denouncing the pastor's act. For a moment there, during the joint statement, it seemed altogether possible that one or another of them might begin rendering his garments. That none of these emotional proclamations included any judgment, moral or otherwise, about the criminality of the zealots who had just taken so many lives speaks volumes to those at war with us, all of it encouraging to them. Something to consider adding to the list of things that might endanger the lives of American troops. From the Wall Street Journal editorial board.